Good morning, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Partner, hanging out with our favorite Value First partner, Crispy Barnett. How you doing, man?
Good. Always happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. I know your week's going well. I would imagine it is because you're focused on this principle or this commitment specifically. Usually,
Mhm.
when we talk about strategy and how to treat partners. Going to talk about commitment number two, uh, purpose over transactions
Mm,
today. And like before I read like the commitment and what it means, like just purpose over transactions. Like what
mm.
comes to mind when I say that phrase?
Purpose over transactions to me means you are building a partnership that has value beyond just a monetary trade in that sense. Where I think examples of this that I see where there's purpose over transactions are things like HubSpot's heavy partnership that exists with Aircall, like one of the first major app partners that existed in the ecosystem. Even though there was monetary value as part of the partnership, it was a you make our product better, and we want to continue to have you serve our customers. And the purpose was solving for the customer, not solving for driving as much revenue as possible, even though that was a side effect of that. So that's how I think of that.
That makes sense. I have some examples, but I'm going to read through what the commitment means, just to set the foundation. Uh, so, commitment number two, um, we will align on purpose over transaction criteria. We believe authentic partnerships form around shared purpose and aligned values rather than rigid qualification checklists. We commit to starting relationships by understanding deeper motivations and goals rather than surface level qualification requirements. So we do things like exploring why organizations exist and the collaborative potential, not just what they need to buy. We seek alignment on fundamental goals and values rather than demographic matching. Build connections around shared vision rather than transaction details or qualification scores. Create space for purpose to emerge in early conversations rather than rushing to qualification checkpoints. And we design partnerships with long-term shared objectives rather than short-term conversion goals. And um, so easy to call this one out, but I'm gonna keep doing it until until people stop doing it, which is like when app partners specifically usually or other solutions partners, you know, as uh, you know, the ecosystem has grown and, marketing focused agencies realized they didn't have any RevOps chops, but they had a lot of customers asking for it. So there's all this interplay inside the ecosystem. And when the first, like, it's funny because it's like, oh, don't worry, we're going to give you 20%. Like, so is that cool? Now we can talk about the partnership as if that's like the first thing that
Yeah,
I
good
need to
offering.
hear. Right. And it's
Yeah.
like, meanwhile, when you dig in, it's like the purpose is like we need more visibility or we need more customers or we need like it's everything but the 20%. And so that's what I think of. And when we start with the transaction, it is
Mm,
so hard to get a partner manager who's probably never been asked to think about it in this way. It's not in their KPIs, but when I can say like, hey, we're both looking for exposure and audience. Let's do some content together, right? They can't even compute that
mm.
as an option, right? Um, and it's hard not to feel like we're a broken record here. But
Oh,
again, if people keep showing up like this, and partners, managers, and partner directors keep showing up with like, this is how I get more partners, we're going to keep talking about it. Um, I imagine this went into some of your like your your partner choices as you've moved into your new role, right?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's something that I search for heavily whenever I qualify new partnerships, especially. there's a couple of main things that I look for. One is the quality of the product and whether I can integrate it into an existing service or build a new service line around it. Two is the resources that I get that are not arbitrary. And usually the arbitrary resources are I have this partner manager who is fucking useless. I get access to a partner stack account and then I add you to Slack where I'm going to harass you for leads. Those three things mean nothing to me. The things that I actually look for are what do you do with partners outside of those arbitrary things to actually improve the way they go to market or improve the way that they deliver services or integrate this into their own business or even use this on their own. Those are the big things that are meaningful and impactful to me. I think the gap that I see here most of the time whenever I disqualify people is partner managers do not understand how service businesses work. Generally, in my experience, I've had one good PDM. It's my existing PDM that I have now. Thank God, I got my old one that I had. I've only ever had one good PDM from HubSpot before. The rest just do not understand the mechanics of the way a service business works entirely. It's just like not it's much harder to sell a HubSpot implementation to a customer than it is to sell HubSpot. And I don't think most PDMs know that because you are the deliverer of value, not HubSpot, which means you have to scope everything very, very heavily. And you have to take into account all of the situations and problems and solutions that need to be created from the customer, especially when there's migration and stuff like that involved. So I think the big gap and weakness in this area in partner programs is that partner managers don't come from partner land. And that's where
Right.
they fail.
So what is this partner manager doing differently that the other ones did not do?
This partner manager came from partner land is the big difference. Yeah, he was at a partner agency. And so he was also in private equity. And shout out Justin Kahlberg is my PDM. He's amazing. He fully understands the way that service businesses work. And he's not his intent is to not sacrifice the quality of the implementation or the scope for the sake of hitting his own quota because he wants to solve for the customer. And for me, that's purpose over transaction.
Yeah. And the purpose being solving for the customer.
Yes, exactly.
Right? I think because it should be so obvious. So I'm working through the ways that we could help this connect. I imagine you have some other examples from the partners you have chosen, like maybe some things that Ask Elephant does, or your preferred partners that maybe you could highlight to show that like we aligned, here first, and now this is where it's like I think a key part of these value first commitments. It's not instead of transactions. Like we still need the transactions to happen. It's just we're prioritizing purpose because then the transactions actually happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Ask Elephant's a really good example and a really good use case where I think that they check all the boxes for me at a product level and more, and their partner support is incredible. Like they flew me out to Salt Lake City and showed me like here's our office, here's our roadmap that you can't share with anyone. Here's our intent for how we want to work with partners in the future. Give us your feedback on that because it directly impacts the success of our partner program. And things along those lines in the sense of they take feedback very seriously and they are actually a customer of ours now where that we actually become their kind of implementation force of their business because they realize, okay, cool, this is helping to solve for customers. If we're solving for customers, we are willing to pay to do that. And that's where you're building really nice partnerships that have purpose-driven intent with the not side effect, but outcome being transactions and like revenue everywhere for all parties. But it's because you lead with purpose-driven intent, not because you think about it as an afterthought.
Yeah. Like that's what I mean when it should be obvious at this point. Like, and this has been a big part of I'll say at least HubSpot as a platform mantra, in terms of like, you know, solve for the customer, like help businesses grow better. And then surprise, everybody gets more revenue, right? Instead of just trying to transact and profit, which is important. But it's so easy to see, like when you when it's prioritized and the bottom line gets prioritized, it's easy for people. And that's where it's like having empathy for the people that are charged with, okay, revenue's my number. I gotta like whatever
Mm.
it takes. It's so easy to get off track. Um, when it comes to um, there's something you said about Ask Elephant that triggered an idea, and I've lost it. Um, but this concept of uh, kind of working together, like as you learned how they work. Oh, what it was is like you start to look for flags. Like this doesn't have to be like, oh, let's do a 6 month discovery session, like so we can figure out the purpose and where the alignment.
Yeah.
What came to mind is like their understanding of where they fit in the ecosystem and the stack, right? Is like perfect.
Mm.
And when we think about, because it used to be just from a functionality perspective, you knew like if companies like Arrows, for example, like they developed for HubSpot, they built for HubSpot, and whenever an app partner said and showed that they did that, it carries all of this other meaning with it, right? It's like you don't have to qualify all these other things because they're not going to fight you on where the customer should be doing stuff, right? It's in HubSpot. And that means when they're talking to us as partners, we're trying to deliver HubSpot, right? Not your stuff and then maybe HubSpot. It's always HubSpot, and we bring it in when we can. Um, so what are aside from solve for customer, are there any other kind of flags where it's like if we just figured this part out first, the rest like gets easier, or we can just part ways like quicker?
Mm. I mean, I don't want to say red flags in the sense of like things that I notice immediately besides the arbitrary items. If someone says the word partner stack to me, I'm immediately like, fuck you. Like, you're not doing that. Partner stack's an awful platform, and I do not like them. Two is I'd like to back channel with other partners. I think this is where the partner ecosystem with HubSpot is very powerful in the sense of it's a small world. And if you are shitty, everyone knows you're shitty because everyone talks about it, especially at Unbound, whatever the fuck it's called now. You will get roasted at the bars there. So it red flags would be I ask around to my peers in my network and my friends in the ecosystem to see, is this place legit or is it not? So that's a big one, is just back channeling. Number two is I guess there's a second layer of back channeling, which is back channeling with HubSpot directly in the sense of, hey, how is this app partner? Are they, certified or whatever, stuff like that. Tell me about your experience, or if you have any other partners that use them. And then number three would be, I want to see the partner manager demo the product specifically, because if they don't know the product and they're not able to demo it in a way that's comfortable, then it's okay. You're likely not a good fit. You're not a good partner manager overall if you can't speak to the product or sell it in a way that is meaningful.
Yeah. um that brought to mind like them, like Ask Elephant sharing the roadmap
Mm.
with you, and that level of transparency, right? It's kind of like the classic case, like you can't avoid the back channels, so just like embrace them, be transparent with the people that you want to work with, and then all of a sudden there's just less space for like dysfunction to happen.
Yeah.
But it's when you can understand the full perspective, and that's why there's like 7 commitments here, like you start to piece together, okay, if they're not being transparent, or if they lead with like the 20% out of the gate, that probably also means they're not as transparent as they need to be. They want to create exclusivity.
Yeah.
They want to do these things that just will not work in the modern, it's antithesis to solving for the customer,
Mm.
right? In a lot of cases, and being purpose driven. And a lot of times I mean, there's opportunity here, especially when it's new partner programs. Like, it doesn't mean you can't work to where you want to go when the product is good and when you know leadership has a great vision. But when they, it's hard to get this kind of education out there, I think. Like, if you go look up or even ask AI how to build out a partner program, like, it's going to start with a lot of the, poor
Mhm.
practices that we're talking about. Um, so, uh, any other like green flags um, you try to look for, or just um, is it should we not overcomplicate it and just be like, are you trying to solve for the customer or not?
I mean, yeah, I
Is
mean,
it is it that
ultimately,
easy?
that's probably the qualifying question above
Right.
everything else is are you actually motivated with genuine intent, which is a hard one for someone to answer, honestly, I think. But other green flags, hmm,
Yeah, so let's go there. Let's say like this person maybe they've never had to answer that question before. They're like, "Oh yeah, of course. We try to solve for the customer." What's your next what's your next question?
how? Give me like a thorough example with real.
And they
Uh,
will stumble
yeah,
immediately if they were
exactly. Yeah,
honest on that first
exactly.
question.
Yeah, exactly. It would be prove it would be the response, and I don't think that many partners would be able to. But other green flags, I would say, whenever I see companies that have partner programs that deeply celebrate their partner's success, whether it's with one of their customers or not, specifically as a sub bullet point to that, that to me is a major green flag. Where there's a genuine vested interest in their own success, even if it means they're not selling their product directly. That's really cool to see, and I think there's only a few partner programs that actually do that. Um, but it's always cool to see that because you really only celebrate yourself. Your PDM celebrates you as a partner, and then maybe some other, smaller HubSpot teams internally here and there. But when you have other partners also celebrating your tier up or some big win that you had, whatever it is, that's how you know you're backed by, a good company that wants to see you succeed.
Yeah. I think that's huge. And also like all these secondary green flags, like they probably know how to market then.
Mm,
Like they're probably good at marketing too. Like, cause like, highlighting other people is one of the better ways that you can market.
yeah.
And I think it leads us into like what we're going to be talking about next week. Um, Now, commitment number three, which is we will enable natural value flow over
Mm,
artificial barriers. And that is why the person will stumble on that second question because everything is process driven. And it's like, oh, even if they try to explain how they solve for customers, if they don't, then they're only going to be able to highlight like basically barriers
yeah.
um, that they put in place to try and confirm that they're solving for the customer. And that's just, you know, that's the opposite of letting the value flow. Um, so that's what we'll be talking about next week. A pleasure as always, man. Appreciate you stopping by today.
Yeah. No, thanks again.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. See you next time.